Hey HTDA, and welcome back to Astro Colony. As our spiders are running around in our base and our scientists are doing their sciencey thing, we are going to work towards massively increasing our technology level, because right now we are still at the basic level where we're used to using some copper and iron and stuff like that. But I really want the advanced mining going, and we can do that now because we have those scientists up and running. We have access to chemistry science, which allows us to unlock advanced mining, advanced smelting. We can actually build a hangar as well, and we should be getting access to biology science as well. In order to make that, we are going to need to make carbon fiber, and we're also going to want to invest a little bit into aluminium, as well as, well, maybe at some point some other stuff are along the way. But we definitely want to work towards agriculture first, because that will just take away the stress of having to worry about, are we going to run out of food? Because right now we do not have food automated, and in order to do so, we are going to need that biology science going to unlock this. So, well, let's get to it. So we're going to need a couple of things. First of all, we are going to need titanium, which we actually have on this planetoid. Quite a lot of it, actually. And in order to mine it, we are going to need a mining machine. And it's one of those things. It's not even too large of a building, so we can just place it down quite easily. Let's put it like this, so the orientation is quite nice. And we can easily power it up as well. And now we'll have two places for our drones to actually do their thing. Now, speaking of drones, that means we're actually going to have to make some drones. So we're going to have to extend this platform a little bit further, at least for now, so that we can actually build a machine. Let's see, we are going to need a robots assembler. We are going to have to build the actual robots on this platform. So just so you know, because it's otherwise they're not going to recognize where they need to go. And let's see, we can connect the power temporarily up like this. Why can't I connect power? Oh, it's actually going through this building. Yeah, that's not going to work. Can't actually see that the building is there, but it's the hitbox of the building. There we go. And what do we need to create? We are going to create some miners. We definitely do not want any more transport bots over here, but we do want miners, and in order to make that, we are going to need to bring some iron rods and hydrogen tanks. Now, once you have some drones constructed, you need to go to the mining station and select what you wanted to mine. Now, you can see I can't currently select the titanium deposit, and the reason for that is very simple. I haven't actually researched titanium just yet. It's under advanced construction. So I'm going to unlock that right here, and then it should allow me now, yep, to select titanium. Now you can see the drones flying off to go and mine titanium. Now we do have other resources over here as well. We have some copper, but that's not necessarily something we are looking for to actively mine right now. And you also notice that the drones have a little bit of trouble actually finding the node. But what they're going to do is they are going to try and position themselves as close as possible, and then they're going to flatten the ground and basically drill their way to the actual deposit. So it should work like intended, hopefully. Although they're kind of clipping through everything now, but hopefully that should work itself out in a moment. Now, the extremely nice thing about mining is that you actually also get some quartz from it. It's a byproduct of leveling the floor. But it's definitely something that's really worthwhile, because, again, this is currently what's feeding our colonists. Well, of course, we're transforming the quartz into actual tonics, but that is feeding our colonists. So, very useful byproduct, and that also kind of alleviates the stress of having to worry about running out of food if you have a similar starting position like I have with only barren ground. So, just something to keep in mind. This is definitely where you want to go next once you have some colonists. Considering that these drones are definitely not the fastest bunched, I also recommend that you double up on your miners. They only take about 4 power, and supplying them with some solar panels should go a long way to making sure they keep moving. Now, of course, you can also move your miners your mining stations a little bit closer to the actual deposit, given that this planetoid that we're on has this huge mountain in here. It's just a little bit inconvenient to do so, so I figured, why not just leave it be and do it like this. You can actually see these these drones drilling into the hill a little bit. We do have some titanium exposed on the outside, so then they don't have to do too much drilling just yet. But they will do more and more of that as soon as they get to the point where they actually need to go inside of the mountain. Oh, I'm actually falling down here. Let's see. X is the button I pressed by accident, but you can see the huge core of titanium in the middle of this whole mountain. So they're definitely going to have to drill it out at some point. The dirt itself is a little bit annoying because these mining machines only cover a small cube area, and you will have to kind of keep pushing them out if you want to keep that automated. Alternatively, it doesn't take too much time to kind of just do it manually like this. It's probably a lot faster, honestly. But yeah, it's really up to you whether or not you want to bother with this or just do it the machine way, basically. Basic smelters are no longer going to cut it, because as you can see, the recipes that we just unlocked are not visible in here. So what we're going to have to do is replace these with the advanced smelters that we just unlocked. Doing so does not just make them look a lot better, it also unlocks a huge amount of new recipes, because now we can also smelt aluminium, titanium, and glass. And of course, glass you need to be careful about because it also uses quartz, and I suggest only making it when you actually have it, but there's no reason that I can think of right now to not just make all the aluminium bars and titanium rods that you have access to, because it's pretty much the only thing you can do with these ores anyway. However, in order to get aluminium, we don't actually have any on this planetoid. We're going to need to move to somewhere else. Now, let's see. I think we have... Oh, I actually already have it selected. So this planetoid over here, called Free Me, is going to have all the aluminium that we're going to need for a very long time. So it has 2,500 aluminium on it. I don't actually think any of the other planetoids have any. We do have this mossy one over here, which is going to be great for agricultural means probably, but for now, this one has titanium and uranium. This one has some more uranium, also a lot of iron actually, that could be very useful. But for now, we definitely want to go to Free Me next. Meanwhile, it is worth noting that you can already create the carbon fiber in the constructor. You only need carbon ore in order to do so. It's a pretty lengthy recipe, so I suggest starting it up as early as you can. And it also means we can actually already do the biology science. We only need some oxygen tanks and carbon fiber for that, and that is what we are currently producing in those two things. Now, that's not actually enough to completely do all the agricultural things that we want, because as you can see, when you want to build a farm, we're going to need some carbon fiber. We also need glass and aluminium, so that is why we are unlocking the other things. But yeah, just keep that in mind. You can already do a lot of the prep work in the meanwhile while you're getting the main resources up and running as well. So what's better than one giant asteroid attached to your base? Two giant asteroids attached to your base. And this time around I went with a more simple layout. So we have a pretty simple dual setup with two miners. Of course, I made some drones as well to make sure they actually work. And we have a very basic setup of some more solar power. And again, keep in mind that the game will treat every single instance connected with these docking stations as a separate type of a colony. So you can't actually connect the power to each other or even the platforms to each other. I'll show you, like you can see over here, and there's like this edge over here, and that means that these two things are not actually connected. So I'm not entirely sure why that is again, but that's how it works. So you need to make sure that every single thing that you connect to the rest of your base with a docking station is self-sufficient on its own. You can of course transport items through it, which is exactly what I'm doing. So everything is going to my main hub, and now we also have some aluminium coming in. We have so many spiders now that we are actually transporting it out pretty much instantly, and of course we are now smelting it into aluminium bars, which means we are pretty much good to go to set up some farming. Setting up a small farm is actually really straightforward. All you need is an actual farm, and you select your crops over here. So in this case, we only have wheat unlocked. We don't have the more advanced things yet. So just clicking this will select that and instruct the farmer to make some wheat. You're going to need some power, of course, as well as water. So we have an icebreaker over here, which is currently being supplied by our spider bots with a lot of ice. We have so much ice by now that we're never going to run out at all. Of course, you need to connect the actual icebreaker to a reservoir just to make sure it keeps working. And I decided this time around to keep the pipes under the floor so it's nice and tidy and the bots can easily move around. Now, last but not least, you're going to need some farmland, and you can lay it out in whatever way you want, but I like these kind of like farming stretches that we have over here. Then, last but definitely not least, the actual farmer is not a colonist, which is what I initially thought. But we're actually going to need a robot to do that. In order to do that, you're going to need to produce some gears, which you should have unlocked by now, and some iron rods, which you definitely have unlocked by now. It takes a little while to create one, but then you should get another tiny little robot to automate your food production. And look at it go, it's another cute little robot. It's basically planting some wheat. It'll take quite a while for the wheat to actually grow, but once you have it, you're pretty much good to go and you have an infinite amount of food. Well, of course, assuming that you keep supplying your farm with water, then that shouldn't really be a problem. Now, once you have some grain and you check your farm, you will see that you don't actually have anything you can eat yet. This is just grain, so you still need to bake it into bread. And that is where the technology that comes after agriculture comes in, because that's meal preparation. Basically, that will allow you to build a kitchen, and that is where you produce food for your colonists. Setting up the kitchen where you actually bake your bread is pretty straightforward. You only need to hook it up to some power as well as some water. You might want to double up on the water breakers, the ice breakers, by the way, just in case you want to make sure that you optimize your food production. Initially, you won't need that much food, but of course later on you will. And for the same reason, I figured, well, might as well double up on the farms then as well, because as you can see, this further wheat is not actually growing because it needs the actual farmers to care for it. So basically they go up and down, they make it grow every time they visit it, and at some point, as you can see, it will actually grow and they will harvest it. So there's a limit to about, I think, 4 patches that a single farmer can maintain. So this should be enough for about 4 farms actually. So as you can see, that's way more than we currently have, but we don't really need to overdo it for now. Speaking of cooks and farmers and stuff like that, you actually do need a colonist to work here, which implies that we're going to need to recruit another cook. I think I already recruited a new one, so you can train it over here in the library. Let's see, are you hiding behind it? Did we get a new one? Oh, it's going to arrive in 5 seconds. It's going to train over here, and it's going to specialize at the study point, and then we should have a cook working on food, bread specifically for our colonists, and then we have, in fact, completely automated our food production. We should never run out, at least assuming that our food production is calibrated correctly to the amount of colonists that we have. But it's a matter of just scaling this up. Again, you only need water at this point, and of course the base resource to make these buildings, and then you're pretty much good to go. And a look at our chef working away in the kitchen. It's I'm not entirely sure what he's doing over there. He doesn't seem to have much appliances or anything like that to bake the bread, but he's succeeding in it, because if we check our little food pile over here, not only do we have drinks now, we actually have nice little buns of bread to eat. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you automate your food production in Astro Colony. I hope you enjoyed this one. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I hope to catch you in the next one.